In this video, we're going to answer one of the viewers' questions, which is how to make a vertical gradient bar chart using chart.js. And that's a very good question. And if you look at one of my other videos here, this was asked in one of my videos, which is related to how to use timescales and enter dates and time in chart.js. And in here, Vroon Chikhale, and I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly, but Vroon asked the following: can you please make a video on how to make vertically gradient bar charts or using chart.js? Specifically, the bar palette color should be gradient. Thanks in advance. Of course we can, and let's start and explore how we will do it. So I have here a blank browser, and this is my blank HTML file. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to add up the bar chart first. So what we're going to do here is I go to chartjs.org. I'm going to grab this default code by clicking on this. Alright, I copy all of this and put it in here. Because I'm going to show you two ways to do it. I'm going to show you the easy way, or basically how you could do it with hard-coded data, but also another one which is a far more advanced and which I personally recommend to do it is a soft-coded, where you can grab the height and the width automatically, which is a far better alternative to consider. So, alright, we have this here, and what I want to do next here, then once I save everything and remove the height and width settings, I want to add up the link. So I'm going to here on getting started, copy this JavaScript link and paste it in here. Alright, so once we have this, the next thing what I want to do is put in here a div. The reason why I'm doing this is to avoid that this div will scale into infinity. So I say here, this will be a class name, chartbox. And in chartbox, we will nest this. We're going to put here style. And here we say chartbox. So dot chartbox with 700. That will be more than sufficient. 700 pixels and save. Once I got that, refresh, there you are. Alright, so now we have this. And now I'm going to show you the easy way to do it. Should you do it like this? I personally would not recommend it, but I had old videos covering this. And the reason I did it at the time was I didn't use the other structure. And it was probably the easiest way to do, especially if you're just beginning up. So what we're going to do is this. And later on you will see this is not possible in the other structure. So this is what really pay attention. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to use this because we need this here, CTX. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this, and then we say here, create linear gradient. Alright, so this is the command, and this has 4 parameters. And the parameters, I'll call them first x0, comma, y0, comma, x1, comma, y1. Alright? So let's start and explore what these values really mean, because they should be numbers in itself. So this here, x0, means starting at the left position. So this is basically your starting point of the gradient, left. And basically this is for the horizontal level, because you start at the x-axis. So very similar to the x-axis. You start at left. Where exactly left will depend on what number you put in here, because you put in here a pixel number. So let's say if you will start here at 100, it will jump here somewhere. In our case, we don't want to have it because we want to have a vertical. So we just put it on 0. Alright? So another one is the y0, which is the starting point of the gradient, but then the top position. Yeah, so this is vertical, while the other one was horizontal. This is horizontal and vertical, but this is a starting point. Alright, so this is probably what we need. We want the starting point. If you want to start at the very top, we could say here 0. We put in here 0. That's fine. And then we have another one, which is the x1, which is the ending point of the gradient. And usually right side, meaning if you start at 0 here left, or you want to end somewhere here, or even at the end, you have to know what's the exact width of this case. If that would be hard-coded, we're going to put in here 700, so we know the width here. So then we would say from left to right, we show a gradient color. Alright? In our case, we don't need left and right. We don't have any horizontal effect. And then here, y1 equals the ending point of the gradient, but then bottom, always lower than the y. So what happens here is then, so if you want here from top to bottom, and that's our case, we want to start here. So how can we figure out here what's the size? Open up Developer tab, click the inspector, and select the canvas. You can see here the canvas, you can see the width is 700, and the height is 350. And the reason why is because there's a screen aspect ratio set up in chart.js, which is 2:1. So by default, of course you can change this, but this is now the case. So we know 350 pixels is the one we need. So what we can put in here is the ending point is 350 pixels, all right? Once we did this, okay, I will comment this out because that is not official JavaScript. Then we can start to say the colors we want to use or which color we want to implement. So in here we have this, and I realize that we need to give this a constant. Let's say constant gradient bg for background color equals this. All right. So once we have this, we say the following. Here we grab this and we say that this gradient background color starts at, then we say here at color stop. All right. And this color stop consists of two parameters. The first one would indicate when the color transition happens. So we say 0, comma, and then we have afterwards we have the color name. So let's here, this is a string value. So we say here green, for example. All right. Once we did this, we do another one because then we want the next color that we want to blend in here. And let's assume we want the transitioning effect starting at the very top or beginning and all the way down to the bottom. In that case, you put in here 0 because it's 0%, and this is 1 for 100%. The percentage is based on whatever is calculated here on the y1 or the y0 with y1. So this is very important. So you have this here, and let's say this will be blue. So once we do this and we save this, we're not done yet. We're going to grab this constant, and this constant is now our new background color. Delete everything here and paste this in. Once we save this, refresh, now we have this. And as you can see, there's a gradual transition from top to bottom. And what we could do as well is maybe you don't want this. Maybe you want to start the transition somewhere halfway through. So we can say 0.5. So at 50% through the canvas, it starts to adjust. So we refresh. You can see now we have more part of green. Of course, the transition happens already slightly here above. So this makes the coloring here above as well slightly green, and then it starts to already here, this white space here basically is starting to calculate and start to calculate more. So this is why when we had here just 0, the color here looks like it doesn't really transform from full green because it calculates here above as well. So we could change it by to make it a bit more lower. Let's say we want to do 0.1. So that's like 10% lower somewhere here probably, and you have more green. But if you do it 0.5 transitioning, meaning halfway through it maintains green, and halfway through it transitions gradually to blue. You can control this as well by saying 0.5, 0.5, save this, and then you have an instant switch. As you can see, the transitioning is instant instead of gradual. So we can put this 1 and put it back on 0, all right? So this is the easy way, hard-coded data. Should you do this? No. I'm going to show you the more expert way that you should do. But to do this, we have some breaking changes here, basically. Why? We're going to work with the 3 blocks. All right. This is really important, and I want you to really understand this. And I had my old videos, I didn't cover this, but now every video I will cover this consistently until a certain period of time. And then by that time, I expect everyone to know this. However, this is the most important one. What we're going to do is we're going to work with 3 blocks, and the 3 blocks will break the order or the structure of this. This will move to the very bottom, which creates an issue here with this, because this cannot grab here, because this part will go up. I will show you exactly what I'm talking about, and you will see it. So we have a setup block. We're going to work with 3 blocks: setup block, configuration block, because this is how the chart.js documentation is moving towards. So I want to make sure you know this as well. And this is finally the initialization or the init and render block. Render block. So it will initialize, or the first initial load of basically of the chart. So what we're going to do here in the setup block, we will work with the data. So we say const data equals, and then here curly braces and semicolon. So between here, we're going to grab all the data points here. So we're going to grab this, and you will see then we have a fatal flaw basically, because this is a constant. So let me show you. We're going to grab all of this, and basically from the data, well, up to here, this is the ending part. So this is the part we want. Cut this out. Put it in here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. All right, this is it. So we put it all in here, and we say here data equals all of this data information here. That's good. But here is our breaking change, or basically the issue it creates. This is a variable, and the variable cannot be loaded now because the variable must grab something else. So don't worry about it, I will cover that later on. This is why this is more an expert or more advanced level of doing it, but the better way. Alright, so the next one is here the config. In the config, we have a new constant called configuration, which consists of all the configuration data. And in here, we just grab all of this information here, the type, the data, and the options. Very important here is basically you get here what I would call the skeleton or the core foundation of chart.js, because these three here is the key to draw any chart. Without this, you cannot do anything. So we get this, we have the bar, the data. I'm going to remove this and I say comma, because this is a variable now referring here. And everything else here, I will accept that. I'll just put this, make this indentation slightly different, because here it's quickly to do. Alright, so once we have this, there you are, and is, I guess that would be slightly better. Alright, I guess. That's alright. So once we have this, we're almost done. The next one is the final one, is the initialization or the rendering. So we're basically going to render it, but the first rendering is an initialization or initial load. That's basically what we're going to do here. So we're going to say here the following. I'm going to grab this here, which is our my chart. Sorry, we need to make sure that this is a constant. Constant my chart equal. And in here, we'll say new chart. So what we're doing here is basically we're creating a constructor in JavaScript. The constructor name is chart. So we put in here semicolon, and pay attention here. These are not curly braces, but these are parentheses because it's a constructor. All right. Then in here, we're going to put in basically this part here. We can ignore this. Chart.js is intelligent enough now to figure out that this, that if we draw something in here in chart.js, it knows it's already a canvas, because this here is referred to draw something in the canvas, so a tag or element. So in this case, it knows it already. So we just can cut this part out, put it in here, comma, load the config variable. Once we did this, we can delete this one now. We delete this. So you can see here we have issue, because here this refers to somewhere else, but this of course cannot be used. So I'm going to comment this out for now, because this will give you an error. So if I save this, you will get an error probably on background color. The reason why is probably the background color here, gradient BG, is not defined. Alright, so we're going to do this now. We're going to work on this one here. So let's make this first just to see if it works. I'll just say green, save, refresh. Alright, so it works. We have this now. Next part now here is going to work on this. So in here, I'm forced to create what I would call a new block of text. And the reason why I'm doing it in a new block is just we have the setup block, and here we create a function. And this function will create a specific block, which I will call the gradient block. Gradient block. All right, and in the gradient block, we're going to use this chunk of code here. So this is very important. However, before we can apply that, I need to make here a function. It must be intelligent enough, because right now here, because we change it completely, what happens is we need to make sure that now the constant here is being read within here. And then you should understand also that the chart here, basically this one, the my chart information. So to do this, we're going to make a function here. All right, pay attention here, because this will be a slightly more advanced part. So we have here the background color. Then we say here function. Create this nameless function here. And this nameless function has a variable called context, which is of course the items in our our chart, because this refers to the chart or the context. Remember, get context was draw in a canvas, so we're referring to the canvas here. So what we're going to do here is put in parentheses, sorry, not parentheses, curly braces, and in here we're going to do the following. We say here constant, and this constant will be called the chart name. And the chart name is here, we say context.chart. Alright, so we grab this one. The next that we want is another constant, and this constant is the curly braces, there's a here, ctx, comma, chart area. Alright, so what we're going to do here is the chart area, and the chart area is basically the chart, the area here, because we want to soft code this. We're going to grab now, we say in this chart, because we have now the context here, which is the chart context ctx, referring here to the ctx, alright, which is also directly in somewhere here, but it's not showing. But however, this is related to the context, so it understands it's the context and the chart area of it. And here, what we're going to do here, we say this equals the chart. Alright, so we have the context chart area related to chart, which is this here. So now we can get the chart area, specifically left, right, top, and bottom. So how do we do this? What we're going to do here is the following. First of all, we need to create an if statement here to make sure if there's no chart yet. And the reason why is once you grab this, it initializes first. The initialization takes some time to load, and at that time it's just blank, so it will find nothing. So we need to make sure that this, if there's nothing yet, just hold on or keep on loading. You will see that in the beginning it will not show anything, but after a few well, not really a load, but it takes like a few milliseconds to load the entire chart, and then it starts to grab it. So we want to make sure it doesn't stop automatically, give an error because it says sorry, we cannot find anything, which is normal because of initialization. Yes, and initialization means on first load of chart. So we have this here. So here we say first return null, and then what we're going to say here is return get gradient. Alright, so what we want to do is here we want to get the gradient, which is again the ctx, comma, chart area. So we have this, but of course this is a function that we now want to run on and figure out what is going on in this function. So let's start to create here our gradient block. And in this gradient block, we will create the function that we have, which is basically the function what we want here, get gradient. Because we want to return this function here. So we return here, but we refer to this function. So in here, the get gradient, we have the following. We have again a ctx, which is the starting point of grabbing always the chart area data. And in here, we're going to get our items that we want. So we say here, our constant, basically what we did here, constant background gradient. We can copy this, put in here. So we have this, but this must be of course soft coded. So what we're going to do here is the following. Instead of having here the 0, we're going to say we want to get the chart area, which we already get here. Yes, but then we say here dot top, meaning we want to get the very top of the chart area through a command here, and then the same here with the chart area bottom. Doing this is a soft-coded version of getting the chart location. So once we have this, we are now basically figure out the soft-coded version. Then we can just move this here, cut this out, and then put this in here. And then the gradient background color is again back here from this. And once we have this, we want to say we want to return. And what are we going to return? Oh, make sure that you have here a semicolon for this block. Here we say return. What are we returning? We're returning the gradient bg value. Semicolon. So what happens now is basically in here, it will run through this function. This function consists of a few data points. And I can show here what I want to do is here console button. This basically chart area. Let's see. So you will see as well what's going on if there's no chart area. So what happens basically is this. We're going in here. We have this function. This is a nameless function which grabs the context of the chart, which is, I guess, the context plus chart. And then we say ctx chart equals the chart. All right. So then we have that here because what we want to do is the chart area. The chart area is the top, bottom, left, and right. So we can get the pixel location where it starts. So once we have this, we're going to basically go in the function of get gradient. We grab all of this, insert in here, soft coded all of the locations, and then we indicate the colors that we want, and then we return the get gradient back in here, and the get gradient is eventually the background color. So save this, refresh. Alright, now we have it soft coded. You can see here it's undefined in the beginning, and afterwards it becomes defined. So what we can do here, maybe this is even a better one. I will just cut this out, paste it in here, and you will see first it is undefined. Refresh. Alright, or you can see here probably it works immediately. However, in the beginning it's still considered as null. So you can see if I copy this, we put it in here, save that, and then refresh. We get 2 times undefined first because it's still loading. As you can see, it was still initializing, meaning it needs to shape, it creates the effect, etc., etc. And then after that, we can see here top, right, bottom, height, or basically the top, right, and more. Do we have more? Top, right, bottom, left. So we can say here we can even grab the height or the width as well. So if you want to have the exact height, which is fine as well, we can just grab that one as well. So instead of here putting the items, where is that? Here down, we could indicate here the bottom, instead of the bottom, also the height itself, so it's the complete pixel amount. So we could do this one, let's say here, height. We could set this even on 0. Do this. You get the same effect basically. However, having it like this is probably the best because you will have exactly everything. But this is all soft coded. The soft coded one will give you the biggest benefit. Although the height here is also quite interesting because it will start at a certain part. Basically then you need to put in here your top. I guess here the top is set on 32, which is starting point is somewhere here. We can remove that by removing the legend. So imagine we want to remove the legend here. So we say here plugins, display, not display, legend, and then display false. Then you will notice that the top will slightly adjust. Comma, save this. Pay attention here. You can see now the top is becoming 10.2 instead of 32. So it starts here somewhere. You can see here if you click on this, you can see here it starts here above, but it starts slightly here under. There's probably some pixel or padding between there. But this is basically the way how you can create a vertical bar which starts to have this color like this. And of course, if you want to change it to horizontal level, we could even adjust this here by doing the chart area left and right. Left, and this would be chart area right, and this could set then here on 0, and this would be on 0. If we save that, you can see now we get an exact different effect as well. So let's put it back, and there you are. So this is the way how you do it. It took a while. I showed you 2 ways to do it. Make sure you use the more advanced way if you want, especially soft coded, because why is this becoming important? Look, if you will do this here, if I do mobile responsive here, what happens? The size might slightly change. Is it? Or maybe here would be here the width should be 100%. Save that. Is that? There you are. So you can see here now everything changes, but this maintains its color, because the moment you change this here, let me double check, where are we? All right, the moment you change this here to, remember we had first 350 in height, save that. You can see what happens now is your chart is slightly adjusting itself, and the blue is hardly visible. By doing this here bottom, it becomes again nicely visible, and you can even adjust it. Maybe if you say blue is maybe too much, I want the green a bit more, start it somewhere at 0.5, refresh, there you are. And if I open up this, it maintains basically the aspect ratio, maintains also the effect on the chart and with the gradient colors. So I hope this was clear. It was a very long video. I didn't expect it to be that long, but I want to be as elaborate as possible to make sure that you really understand the foundation of this. So that if you do have questions still about this, put them in the comment section below and I'll make sure I'll follow up. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in chart.js, check out in the description box the link directing to my chart.js course, where you can learn everything about chart.js. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.